Sarah Siegel, and today I'll be walking through our poster called Expanding Impact by Achieving Outcomes, Using Proven Results to Drive Innovation. Supported by research beginning in the early 2000s, assessment to instruction, or A2i, has been rigorously tested and is proven to improve student literacy outcomes in early elementary school classrooms. A2i's foundation in academic research, in combination with Learning Ovation's mission to get all students reading at or above grade level at the end of third grade, created the perfect partnership and opportunity to bring the evidence-based A2i Professional Support System to districts across the country at scale. Our theory of impact is based on two key areas. First, impact, so connecting all the different aspects of a system into one key focus on third grade reading outcomes. The second is on implementation using the A2i Professional Support System. The support system has four key components: online assessments, data-driven recommendations, an aligned lesson plan, and customized support. This customized support is provided by a literacy outcome specialist who meets with teachers and grade level teams across an entire school year. Data for our work was collected using two sources: surveys based on these coaching sessions I just described, and then our online assessment data, specifically our letters to meaning assessment, which captures students' decoding and comprehension ability. The key aim of this work was to really get at two key factors that we believe are key for understanding implementation at scale and for taking this A2i Professional Support System from the research background and into the real world. The first was what factors tied to adult expectation and implementation can be identified as potential indicators for school level implementation. So essentially, what are the key pieces of our current survey that will let us know how implementation is going? And then second, once we've identified these key factors on the survey, do these factors predict student outcomes and implementation success? To answer this question, we completed two different types of data analyses. Using this machine learning technique, we were able to actually classify responses to our survey questions into three key categories. So that means that items that are correlated as far as similar characteristics, such as teachers high on willingness to learn how to use A2i and teachers high on willingness to learn how to use assessments to guide instruction, would all be categorized into kind of a similar cluster on this display. Each one of these displays is a separate district, and each dot that you see within the little cluster displays is a coaching meeting where a survey was completed. After looking at how the survey responses were clustered, we were actually able to identify three distinct categories that were represented by these clusters. First, low partnership, low fidelity. So these are schools where there was both a low participation, then there was also low fidelity, so low responses for teachers actually implementing the coaching that was happening during those meetings. Second is the category that involved high partnership, so high involvement, high teacher participation for actual attendance, but low fidelity. So teachers still weren't actually implementing the practices recommended by A2i. And finally, high partnership, high fidelity, and this is represented by the purple section there. These are teachers that not only attended the meetings and were willing participants, but also actually gave examples or were observed implementing the A2i recommendations in their classrooms. So once we've identified some of these key indicators and the fact that our coaching sessions are identifying teachers who are falling into these three categories, we wanted to know, are schools where these meetings are taking place actually seeing differences in their student outcomes based on how teachers are participating in our professional development and implementation? And that is our second piece of our concrete example that you see here. Our partnership profiles indicate that on the y-axis, you can see its number of schools, and on the x-axis, you can see it's actually representing growth rate of our students. That these three categories do identify different levels of outcomes for students depending on how implementation is going. So first, you can see students in schools with low participation and low fidelity actually are farther to the left, meaning they see less growth across the school year. Schools and teachers participating in schools with higher partnership and higher fidelity actually have that same kind of bump, but it's farther to the right. So that means more growth per year for those schools. In the middle, we have schools that have many of our coaching sessions involve high partnership. So teachers are attending, they're participating in the discussions, but lower fidelity. They're not necessarily taking all of that information and putting it into action in their classrooms. And you can see here, there is kind of a wider range of the outcomes that are showing up in that kind of middle of the road implementation process. So we're definitely seeing a concrete connection here between how strong implementation is being carried out in schools and what our student outcomes are. This also leads us to our learnings and takeaways from this analysis. One thing we identified right away based on our survey questions is that the Likert scale questions had a lot of overlapping information in them, but we were able to identify a lot of unique information about schools and the implementation process using questions such as what was the overall tone of the meeting, or was there a emotional response? And if yes, was it positive or negative? So these kind of outlier questions gave us a lot of additional information just by adding one question to the survey. Second, we realized that surveys did allow us to successfully identify specific clusters of schools and districts based on the meetings and how they were going. So that was really successful in identifying that there is a way for us to measure implementation success. And then finally, these clusters appear to represent meaningful differences in implementation that actually connect to student outcomes. So if we can identify what makes implementation more successful, especially in terms of student outcomes, we can begin replicating that to a greater degree at scale. I hope this information was helpful for you. If you have any follow-up questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. You can visit us at learningovations.com or email me directly. Thank you so much.